Hey everyone, welcome. It's good to see all of you present. Um, Welcome to those who are new to the space. Um, Please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Um, Definitely introducing, whatever name you want to use and any other information, including if you're on indigenous lands, um, what lands those are. Yeah, and a check-in. If you want to do a little check-in in the chat, please go ahead and do that. And of course, welcome back to those of you who have been rolling deep with Medicine Buddha and its many incarnations as well. I want to, we're going to finish at 8:30 tonight because I have to get some allergy medicine from Target before it closes. I've been told that I'm not miraculously healing and getting better from all the pollens that I've been inhaling in different climates. so, so my doctor was like, you should just go get some Sudafed and be done with it. So that's what I'm doing. Oh, I lost my tea. So give me a second. I'll be right back. I'm just going to go get my tea or I won't make it through the night. Be right back. All right, I'm back. I'm drinking hibiscus right now. So that's really good. Okay. Any questions about mantras? I want to do a quick check-in about mantra practice for those of you who are doing it, since we haven't talked about it for a bit. So Eric's put the mantra practice up. So anyone, if you're new, you can go right to that document, the mantra practice, and look at the instructions for the mantra. And the mantra Teata Om Bekenze, Bekenze Maha Bekenze, and also Sumagate Soha, which is Medicine Buddha's main mantra, incantation, perhaps. We can follow that. And we've been moving through a couple stages of the mantra, but I really want, as I've said often, to do, mantras are really important in helping us to deepen our relationship to the deity. And of course, another way of describing that is that the mantra attunes us to the frequency of particular deities. So they're like the key in many ways that unlocks the frequency, the energy, right? That particular energy of the deity that we're working with, right? And you can use mantras for wisdom deities and worldly deities. And of course, wisdom deities are awakened beings who emanate directly from emptiness itself. So their presence in the world or in reality is solely beneficial, right? So when we recognize and embody emptiness, we transcend the capacity to create harm. Of course, when a wisdom deity emanates into the relative, into this world, into the carceral state, it gets a little more complex. It's not so straightforward anymore because you're having to negotiate relationship to an ego. The ego is how awakened beings communicate with us. But we'll talk about that in a later date. And of course, worldly deities also have mantras, incantations, right, that we begin to use to call their energy, to awaken their energy, right, in our practice as well.
There is a question from Marianne in the chat.
Yes. Okay.
In the Tibetan tradition, is it especially important to do the mantra daily?
Yeah, it's important to do it regularly. Daily is good. It doesn't have to be for a long time. But when I was learning mantras, I was taught to just recite them anytime I thought about it. So going somewhere in the middle of something, before going to sleep, definitely in a formal practice session that we may set up every day. But to recite the mantra and to allow our minds to rest within that frequency, that resting in the frequency of the mantra connects us to the mind, the consciousness of that deity. And so when we're connected and attuned like that, then the blessings of that particular deity are very accessible to us. There's the deepening of faith and trust when we are attuned. But this is, the mantra it's like that, how we begin to develop intimacy, right? In this case, Medicine Buddha, this is how we begin to develop intimacy with Medicine Buddha, along with developing faith. Faith that this is working, important, that the blessings or the consciousness of Medicine Buddha is actually present and alive for us. My relationship to Medicine Buddha came through faith. And because I'd gotten injured, and long story short, I'd gotten injured and didn't feel like I could get medical care. And so I just turned to Medicine Buddha and really developed a lot of faith. And it worked, something worked. So are there indicators along the way if we are deepening relationship with the deity? Yes. You think about the deity more. When something's going on, when something's happening, it's more likely that you turn to the deity for support. Like for me, like when I'm in danger, I turn to Tara. I always pray to Tara in moments of crisis, right? Because Tara is positioned, in the teachings to be swift in her response to people being in danger. You develop a love, right? A sweetness, a warmth for the deities. You don't feel so much separation, which I know some of you still do, and that's fine. But you feel a closeness over time. Like you can just feel the energy of that deity. And when you work with people who people or practice with people who are deeply in tune to certain deities, you can feel how they embody the qualities of that deity. Like Swami Jai Devi, for instance, who's a Kali, practitioner, and you can feel that intensity with her, that sweetness, but also that like that fierceness. Kali is loving but fierce, no apologies, right? And you can feel that with Swami Jai Devi, right? Really like, yeah. Yeah, my early experiences, my particular abilities is that, I can connect to a lot of deities and a lot of energies. I move a lot of energy around. Um, and that's something that I intentionally trained to do, mostly because I found it really exciting. Um, it does get in the way of one's dating life as well. But don't worry, you're getting a whole bunch of writing on that in the fall in New Saint. So I think you're going to know much more about me, in the next book than you were prepared for. So get ready. It's a very queer book. So if you're still working out some queer stuff, it's going to just kind of hit you really. It forces people to work. It's already sent one person into retreats to work out some issues. So it's holding a punch. But anyway, yeah, Kali. Yeah, my first experience with Kali was like really overwhelming. And then after that, I was like just afraid. I mean, and this is rightfully so with wrathful deities. When we say wrathful, we mean direct, fierce, not mean, right? But just really direct compassion. That's what we mean by wrath. And New Saints, I call it fierce. It's fierceness, fierce deities, right? But the fierceness is startling, actually. And I'm very much a believer in creating lots of support, protection, and boundaries around working with wrathful deities from personal experience, because the energy is really intense, you know. And I'm going to be getting more into wrathful deities this year. I'm going to get into Mahakala, which is my personal protecting deity. But we're still kind of working up. We're going to do that in Chinrezi, I will attempt to demonstrate how Chinrezi transforms into Mahakala in a practice. Because Chinrezi does, right? And I don't understand why people are so against that. Anywho, Black Tar, the Taras. And of course, Rachel, if Rachel is here in the space, she can say more, Rachel Wooten, but Black Tara is still very much, aligned with green Tara and white Tara. There's manifestations of Tara. But when Tara begins to express herself in more wrathful deities, like Kali or Durga, or Paul and Lama, which I know some of you are practicing with Lama Justin, you begin to feel that fierceness because they're about protection, but Kali is really about a kind of spiritual disassociation. Now this is not a Kali night, but I'm just gonna say this and keep moving on. But so there's a very skillful, dramatic kind of disassociation that wrathful beings or fierce deities engage in, and particularly with Kali. Kali is very much associated with, one, the disruption of ego fixation, but that's all the deities, I think. all the wisdom deities. But in particular, Kali has this particular way of disassociating us from time. And that's what makes her super dangerous in a way if we're not prepared. Like, time is disrupted, and the ego depends on time, linear time, to maintain itself. The ego is like on a timeline, right? And this is how we maintain the illusion of samsara, the carceral state. It's like everything's linear. This happens, then that happens, and then this happens afterwards. But when you disrupt that kind of linearism, right, and then you get non-linear, the ego, the sense of self, can't actually stabilize itself, right? And when it happens in a second, then Kali sweeps you up, and says you're mine. It's all love, right? But if you're not ready to meet that level of practice, then you shouldn't be knocking on Kali's door, right? And does getting not linear or non-linear feel like being in younger feeling states from long ago? No, it feels like being, it feels like someone, it feels like finding yourself free falling in open air. So if that just instantly happens, then you're gonna have a period of trying to adjust to being, kind of free falling. So it doesn't feel great. It's not a warm, pleasant feeling. It's disruptive, right? But then you find yourself back in a timeline, right? And then you take that experience of the nonlinear experience back into your life, and you slowly begin to integrate it. Yeah, these practices are very physical. Like, the body is very much involved in this work. And this is, when we do medicine Buddha, right? You feel that, the energy body is working through the physical body, right? So you may do this practice and have different sensations or even discomfort, physical discomfort. That's part of the practice, We're trying to awaken the physical body through these practices. So most of our bodies aren't awakened, or parts of our bodies are awakened, right? But we're trying to awaken not just the physical body, but also the energy body, the subtle energy body. We're trying to awaken the chakras and the bodies and everything, right? And that's why we keep practicing in the way that we're doing. How important is it to communicate the non-existence of time when it comes to things that need immediate action, like implementing equity? So this is the Heart Sutra work again. And the Heart Sutra, again, is a teaching on sacred dualism, that things are and they ain't at the same time. And that's the teaching of the Heart Sutra, is how to live at the intersection of it is and it ain't. So when we talk about responding to the moment, we respond from space, not from contraction. We acknowledge the illusion of time and a timeline, but we don't get consumed by the realness of it at the same time. To respond, right? To respond to something, this whole reactivity is just the illusion. Like, you don't have to react to anything. And reactivity isn't the only way we deal with crisis. Reactivity is just what we've learned because we've been escaping the truth of who we are. responsiveness can be quicker than reactivity if you train, right? And that's what we're trying to get to. So you respond to urgency and crisis, but I'm not getting consumed by the urgency. It doesn't matter how you say the mantra. It can be silent, aloud, right? But in mantra practice, we're saying the mantra, which blesses our speech. We should be visualizing something which blesses our minds. And there should be some movement as well that blesses the body, which I guess in breathing can be that movement, but using a mantra often is that kind of visceral, physical movement. You know, I like this teaching. She saw that all phenomena arose, abided, and fell away. She saw that knowingness itself arose, abided, and fell away. Then she knew there was nothing more than this, no ground, nothing to lean on, stronger than the king she held, nothing to lean upon at all, and no one leaning. As she opened the clenched fist in her mind and let go and fell into the midst of everything. That is very beautiful. It's a very beautiful teaching. Yeah, to open, right? To open and to fall into that. That openness, the emptiness, but to fall into it, not trying to hold on to anything. And that's where the terror arises for many of us. That's when the ego is striking back. It says, what are you doing? Now, when we're in danger. Yeah, wrathful and direct. Yeah, because direct compassion doesn't feel good. It actually really doesn't. I don't know who's ever felt, whoever thought that wrath feels good. It's never felt good. Because wrath is compassion, but wrath is direct compassion. And it's direct because we're holding on to something and we don't want to let it go. So just someone waltzes in and just says something that you don't want said, but it needs to be said and it feels like shit. And then you react. This is why wrathful practice, or someone embodying wrathful expressions, first, it's very rare because wrathful compassion means that if you're trying to embody that, it means that you have to be absolutely 101% clear that what you're going to say or do needs to happen. And it's not about you, and it shouldn't be about you, because most likely, if you do something wrathful, really compassionate like that, then the person receiving that compassion or wrath will not be appreciative. Of course, the best scenarios that they come around at some point, but sometimes people don't. And it takes years for people to really understand what happened in that exchange. But I'm not talking about when someone directs wrath towards you, you can be in a group of people and no one even notices because it's so specific to you. It's just a word, and it's the word that you don't want articulated by anyone. So you'll freak out, but people will be like, what's wrong? I've been there and I've, lived through this, Someone can say, oh, the sun is shining. That could be a wrathful statement because that statement is related to something bigger, and then everything just starts to fall away when you get that. So people are like, he just said that the sun was shining and now you're freaking out, but you're like, you don't know, you don't understand though what that means. Like that's how it is. Like it's not this dramatic thing. It's very smooth. Like it's just like someone just drops a statement, right? No one's yelling, there's no violence. It's just like you don't want to hear that. You don't want to deal with the suffering. And then someone just puts it right back in your face. Yeah, that's wrath. But people do it because they know that's the way that you're going to get free. This is why we have to be very, careful when, working with wrathful deities, because they'll just put it right in front of you, and say, okay, deal with it. You ask for it. Don't ask for the medicine if you're not willing to take it, right? Yeah. But everything there, there's so many beings, so many deities. There are deities that have been forgotten, right? Um, there are deities that, are associated with our ancestors, or deities that are particularly connected to us. It's just very complex and very expansive. And also just, I have found it to be just really fun to really, dig through these relationships, right? Because this is help for you, you know. And for the medicine, for discerning medicine, it's like sometimes it's patience, right? Sometimes we have to wait to see if this is really medicine, right? Whatever's happening, what you're being given, what you're receiving, sometimes the medicine, you have to drink the medicine and take it in and just wait and see what happens over time. Medicine is supposed to free us, but it doesn't mean we start feeling free. Medicine takes us to where the work is, and that work may seem really grueling and overwhelming. So it's easy to say, oh, this isn't working, you know. But in fact, it is. Medicine goes to where the pain is. So we're just going to continue with the mantra as it is right now. We'll just continue just doing that. I'm not going to give like another level, at least not this month. Um, yeah, and this is the work, right? This is like if you're going to be around me, you're going to be working, and that's just really like the deal. There's no shortcuts anymore. Tantra is a shortcut. You may not think it is, but it's like this is very much a shortcut. It's a shortcut back into the places we run away from. So there we go. Um, better do it now. Like as my teacher would say, better do it now than in the bardo. Right. I'm telling you, just from experience, like this is a whole, spiritual practice disembodied is a whole nother thing that's happening. It's a whole nother set of challenges. The body anchors practice and creates a foundation and ground for practice to move quickly. But when you're disembodied, just a consciousness, just energy, and you're newly transitioned, right? That's hard to hold on, to feel grounded, right? Let alone do some meditation practice, right? You're trying to collect yourself, right? Um, but this is why, again, in this in Buddhist teaching, This is why we say the human life is so important, because you have so many resources to get free, right? Um, you have, of course, the main resource, which is that you're already free, that your mind is already awakened, right? And that you're just distracted. So you're already free. That's the greatest blessing. You just have to remember that. You have to remember your innate freedom, and then use the raw material of suffering to start climbing out of that misconception, right? And that first thought should be, oh, I'm suffering. This shouldn't be happening, right? Like there's gotta be something else. And there is something else. And that's when the Dharma path begins. Is when you say there's gotta be something else than this shit, right? Like whatever's happening in the world has gotta be a whole nother thing somewhere else that I need to find, right? And you have to be sick and tired. I sat with someone in the UK, and the first thing they said to me was that I am tired of suffering. And I'm like, welcome to the club. Now you're actually doing something. A lot of people, this is not exaggeration. A lot of you haven't gotten sick of this yet. You're like, I'm going to make it work. Well, good luck with that, right? That's why you practice mainstream mindfulness, to make it work. Like, I just need to get comfortable and happy and just get through this life. But guess what? You have another one coming, right? I will gladly tell you if you're at the end of your line. Right? And I haven't seen a lot of that in this life. So, this is, you have to, as Daniel Luhamer said, right? You have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? So you're sick and tired. A lot of people are sick and tired of everything. I get that. Now it's time to get sick and tired of being sick and tired, because you can make a home in being sick and tired and saying, well, this is just it. There's nothing else. I might as well just make this work. Too many of you are making it work, right? And what I'm saying is that I am not trying to make it work. Like, samsara isn't here for me to make work. Samsara is here for us to transcend, right? Transcend dualism, transcend suffering, right? Transcend hate, right? To remember who we are. Like, if you remember who you were, or have an inkling of that, then this experience of being in the world and embodied will begin to transform. You begin to say, oh, okay, this is just an experience. This isn't my home. And that's going to create a lot of space, right? But you're still not settling for it. And that's, I have to tell people all the time now, especially with the new book, it's like, if you don't understand that what I'm doing is trying to get free, then you're going to misunderstand everything that I'm doing. So I'm not interested in you being happy. I'm interested in you getting free. That's what I'm investing in. And that means you have to go into the dark places, right? This is what Tantra does. Like, let's move into this darkness and transform it into medicine, to use it to get free. This is the most important thing that you could ever develop, this attitude, right? That I'm like tired of this, right? There's got to be something different, and there is. Do you have the courage to start working with that different experience? Because no one's going to give it to you, you know. Like no one's gonna pull you over threshold to awakening. Freedom is a choice that each of us have to make. Right? We have to consent to the work of liberation, because if you're not consenting, it's just going to be a whole nother layer of suffering, which digs us deeper into this experience. You know? Like you have to start renouncing the silliness and the drama and the overreactivity, right? You have to start believing that there's a way, right, to transcend trauma. You know, trauma is something that I don't allow to be in my experience, right? I work actively to release trauma as much as possible, right? You know, how do you know if you're disassociation of spiritual anxiety? I'm starting to think they are linked, if not the same, in my case at least. Yeah, I think this is a big question around disassociation and spiritual path. But this association, it's a bypassing of experience. It's a bypassing of pain, right? I know I'm disassociating when I'm not in pain. Like when I am not connected to actual discomfort, then there's something going on. You know, we should always be in relationship to discomfort, but that relationship can be quite spacious. But we should still be connected to it. I should still feel it. But that feeling is not the totality of my experience in the moment, right? But when we're feeling kind of numb and super fluid and not touching in or able to touch into these experiences of discomfort, then that's disassociation. And that's when I actually started practicing with the earth. Earth practice, earth touching, right, is a really powerful way to invite the earth to help us return back to the body, to sensation. Like I can always name my suffering and my pain, right? But I also connect to the space around these experiences. But over time, right, you begin to connect to the inherent expression of space within discomfort itself, right? And of course, this association, right, can be quite skillful because it can create some space for us to get like just a little bit of break from the overwhelming experiences, right? Absolutely. This is a path where you're learning how to skillfully use the things that maybe have not been skillful in the past, right? Sometimes we have to skillfully change the channel, right? So the lesson that I had to learn today with my doctor, which is a lesson that I learned from my teacher, but it's like if you're sick, you can try to meditate it away or you can take an aspirin. So which one are you going to do, right? And today I'm choosing to take the aspirin because I'm tired of being sick, right? I try my best, right? But this is the same choice that you have, right? Like, what am I going to skillfully use? Me taking medicine doesn't make me a bad medicine Buddha practitioner, right? It doesn't make you a bad person to take medicine. Like the world's full of medicine, right? All kinds of medicines, right? It's for us to use to feel better, And yeah, we're still meditating and doing our practices. Absolutely, we're using I use everything, you know, to get free. These are resources we can use. But anyhow, yeah, either you meditate it away or you take the aspirin. And I can't tell you which one you're going to do. That's something that's personal. That's really personal. Like you figure it out. It's okay. You want a break, take the medicine. Okay. you know, I'm gonna take a break. So I've been at this a while, right? So I'm gonna get some Sudafed and be done with it. So let's get into practice. Let's get into practice. And so, of course, I want to reiterate again, like all the elements, obviously, you're going to read this in New Saints. I have a practice for all the elements in the New Saints, but The earth is really just waiting for us to collaborate with it. I'm like really just like touching the earth, and asking the earth to support me, to ground me, to take care of me, right? You can ask this of any element, as well. You know, when I'm sitting and doing firework, right? It's just like I'm asking the fire to take care of me and the elements of the fire and the wind and water and space and everything. Ask the elements for help. Like when we're freaking out, go outside, put your hand in the ground, or just walk barefooted and just like feel the earth rising to hold us, right? Feeling the consciousness of the earth and how the earth element expresses itself in anything that feels grounding and holding and solid or tangible, right? When we're disassociated, we do something tangible, we hold on to something, we feel something neutral, right? We feel the weight of something. It's the holding. It's the earth element asking us to take refuge in it, to come home to it. This is why it gets a whole homecoming practice in the 7 homecomings, because it's so important, right? But this is where we're going to begin with the earth, right? And to begin with, just turning your attention to the element of the earth, so the energetic expression of the earth, which means anything that feels tangible and grounding and holding. And the earth element is going to bring us into this moment, because the earth element only exists in the moment. So feeling the weight of your body and the seed rising to hold you. Right? I'm even like just touching, just gently touching. Like my hands, which feel very neutral, right? My whole body is very neutral, at this point in my trauma practice. So like just any part of my body just feels like really, oh, okay. And even bringing a hand up, right, to your heart center, right? And just feeling the pressure of your palm on your chest, noticing the breath, right, the rising, falling of the chest, the diaphragm, and feeling the groundedness, like my hand and the pressure from my hand reminds me of the solidity of my body. And I feel like there's something really holding me. This actually, in terms of associations, this feels like when I was I was going to say young. My mom still does this. Like we may be driving in the car and she'll come to a quick stop and then she'll just like put her hand and hold me to the seat, right? And she still does that, by the way, which makes her a poor driver. She's still doing that. But like, that's what I think about. It's like my mom's palm coming, right? For those of you who are parents, right, you feel that instinct to like put your hands on your child to protect them. And maybe, some of us don't, because excuse me, if you come from survived a history of abuse, this feels very different, right? So again, you're just making choices about how you're relating to these very somatic practices, right? And now, even now, you can start asking the earth for what you need, because you're connected. Like, this is what I mean by touching the earth. Like, I am noticing the earth element, which is again the expression of Earth's consciousness, its intelligence, its spaciousness, how it's manifesting in all these different ways right now. When I notice that, I am connected, and I say, this is earth element, or consciousness. And then I ask for what I need. So what do you need right now? Are you anxious, for instance? Are you scared? Whatever it may be, ask the earth element, the consciousness of the earth, to take care. What feels like discomfort for us. And even in my practice, I imagine just offering the energy of this discomfort into the grounded consciousness of the earth. It's like I'm letting it go, I'm releasing it. And you can use the breath here as well to release. So like breathing into where you're feeling that discomfort, either in the body or in the mind, dissolving it, releasing it, letting go. And as you're exhaling, just saying, I am letting this go into the earth to be held and grounded by the earth. So, right, in this experience, like we're drawing closer and closer to the birthplace of the deity, we could say, right? Because any energy can be used to draw us into the awakening of the deity. In this case, medicine Buddha. So I talked about all these ways of attuning to the deity. I would say probably the strongest, not by a lot, but still, I would say from my experience, the strongest attunement practice is longing, to long for the deity, to long for the consciousness of medicine Buddha to heal, right? To take care of, to tend to. And you can do this for any deity. You know? But the longing, I want to transcend suffering. I'm tired of suffering. I'm tired of the violence in the world. I'm tired of the struggle that I'm moving through. Therefore, I have to start longing to be free. And that longing begins to open up experiences of space and emptiness. That longing begins to divest us from how we invest in suffering for ourselves and for others, and it begins to help us reinvest in what freedom from suffering is, which is the experience of emptiness and space. And that longing begins to shape emptiness and space, and of course, this innate fundamental energy that pervades everything. That longing begins to shape these experiences into a form that we can tangibly relate to. And that form, in this case, can be medicine Buddha. I'm just telling you, this is some profound shit. This is the first time I'm saying this. So like, this is gonna end up in a book. Not the next one that's already written. But the longing, your longing to get free begins to shape the phenomenal world into symbols and expressions to get us free. Ooh, Jesus Christ, that's intense. Like, I have to sit with that now. Now everyone's taking notes. I'm like, oh shit. It's being recorded, don't worry. But you have to get to the longing first, right? It's more than just wanting. I don't just want to be free. I need to be free, right? Not just me. I need everyone to be free from this, right? But sometimes it just begins with us. It begins with the I. I need to be free. And if I need to be free, everyone needs to be free. And that need turns into a deep longing. So how am I going to get free? How is this going to happen? And that longing can feel like moving into what we would call like a desert experience. Like it's the Exodus experience, right? When we leave captivity or being bound, we have to enter into a wandering kind of desert experience because we have to figure out who we are being free. And that can be another kind of suffering that has to be held. So again, the longing, I want to be free. And in that longing, I have to also begin to hold space and move through that longing, which can take as long as it needs to take, right? But in that longing, the really powerful experience of beginning to shape the world into experiences of liberation, that's where this really begins to happen. And there may be things around you that you're used to interacting with, even relationships that you're used to interacting or being in, that when you begin this longing practice, the nature of these relationships, these things begin to change. And it did for me. I've always been around profound spiritual teachings, even if growing up in Christianity, learning about Jesus and everything, right? But I never got it. I just I never, understood it. And even when I, started, developing a relationship with Buddhists and just being around teachers all the time before I started really practicing, I was just like immersed with really profound practitioners, but I wasn't interested because I hadn't developed the longing yet. And when I started developing the longing, all of a sudden, I loved to meditate, or not love, I understood the necessity of meditation and teaching and studying, or the teachers and studying, right? Getting sick and tired of being sick and tired. Then you get into the longing, what else? And the world begins, the phenomenal world begins to shape itself around the longing. Now, the longing doesn't have to be to get free, right? The longing can be to get deeper in the stuff. The longing can be all kinds of stuff. Like, longing is just longing. But when we start longing for freedom, that's when freedom starts to awaken for us. If we're just longing to be powerful, or we're longing, you know, to get back at people, that's going to create other causes and conditions, right? That some of us are very familiar with, right? Some of us, I am very sure in this space, have been down those darker paths. I'm not talking about the Jedi Knight dark paths. I'm talking about some real dark paths, right? And a lot of people do. A lot of people, there are people that we're around who are deep in this kind of like not liberatory longing, right? But we're longing to get free in order to free others. And that opens space and emptiness. And from space and emptiness, the symbols, the practices, the methods began to shape themselves around this longing for us to use. So I want to, just from this space, just go into the mantra and offer our prayer requests, and then come back into a short mantra after that. But in this space, allowing the mantra to begin to shape our experiences of freedom, or the resources that we need to get free. Just pay attention to what's being awakened, to what's being revealed. Resting our minds in the spaciousness and letting the space take care of us. And you see the mantra there in the chat. We'll begin. Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa. De Adam begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasus mungatis oa.
And I didn't know how to look up the
Just staying in this space, I'm just turning my attention to prayer requests for today and to offer, these prayers right into this longing, like to long, like to add the or to saturate these prayers and longing and to offer this longing into this experience of emptiness of space so that this longing imbued with our prayers begins to shape the phenomenal world in order to bring benefit to those whom we're praying for. Right? We begin. Okay. Offering prayers for my cousins, the Hill and Harris families, and the transition of Cherry, and for the Oliver and Williamson family on the transition of Annette. Offering prayers for everyone with complicated or painful relationships with their mothers, everyone whose mothers are gone or absent. Praying for solace and healing from suffering caused by mother wounds. Offering prayers I can understand and learn from my struggles with relationships, growing understanding, growing wisdom, and especially for direction and how I move forward. Offering prayers for all my beloveds, prayers of gratitude for their involvement, support, and love, and prayers for their wishes and needs to be fulfilled. Today I'm so sad and lonely, even though I have a fine life. Prayers that I learn what is to learn from this so I can connect with space again. Offering prayers for material, emotional, and spiritual support as I'm going through a long process of healing, relational trauma, and figuring out work-life balance. Prayers for my mom and family as we prepare for Dad's memorial next month. Offering prayers that for my ever broken heart, that I am able to discern self-indulgence from necessary suffering medicine. Offering prayers for safety, fulfillment, and love for my daughter for all her days. Offering prayers for me and my partner that we find our way back to one another in intimacy and connection. Offering prayers for my relationship, for us to find harmony and peace from conflict for the benefit of all, with freedom from opposing forces. Offering prayers for my partner that he may find a suitable job soon. Offering prayers for my children that they may feel safe and loved. Offering prayers for A and her baby as they adjust to their new life. May they always be safe and have the resources they need. Offering prayers for those fighting to preserve and protect the Weelaunee Forest in Atlanta. May Georgia know peace. May the unceded land be defended from police state and healed. Offering prayers for Carla and Francesca. May he be healthy. May they be healthy. May they be well. Offering prayers for Brian. May he find liberation from suffering and balance and grounding in nature. Offering prayers for my Laura and her financial campaigns so she can live in a safe, clean home. Offering prayers for Hannah as she navigates recovering from physical and emotional barriers restricting her breath. Offering prayers for those struggling with ego. May they find release and peace and rediscover their ability to be in the right relationship. Offering prayers for Claire after the loss of her partner, Miklos, and her upcoming travel to India. Prayers for his sons, Alex and Andre, as they grieve. Prayers for all who are experiencing police brutality and carceral violence. Offering prayers for all to be free. And I offer prayers for Agni Starfire, for the peaceful transition and liberation of her son. I offer prayers for Mike and Paul for their deepest well-being, happiness, and joy. Offer prayers for Caverly's mom as she continues to grieve the loss of her mother and for the support and care of her family. And I continue to offer all the prayers of all those prayers that are unspoken, that even these prayers are offered. We continue to pray for the liberation of all beings from all forms of violence and harm, that all beings may experience safety and care and have access to all the resources that they need. May we all get free as quickly as possible from all experiences of suffering. May all those here tonight in this practice space, may you have what you need in order to experience the deepest well-being, happiness, and joy. And that we all may get free as quickly as possible. Returning our attention back to our mantra, and just in the mantra practice, just continuing to release the anxiety and doubts, and fear that we hold around these prayer requests. To just let those go, to offer those into this emptiness, which is really offering this into the very consciousness of all the Buddhas, especially Medicine Buddha, and to allow the deep compassion of Medicine Buddha, right, and the essence of reality to shape itself around what we most need to happen for ourselves and for our beloveds. O te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sunugate soha. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sunugate soha. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa Soha, Eada, Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, Razes Mugatis Soha, Eada, Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, Razes Mugatis Soha, Eada, Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, Razes Mugatis Soha. Begenze, begenze, ma begenze, 라스 스무가르소와 대야나움 백은세 마백은세 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 So returning back to connecting to the earth elements, connecting to what feels solid and tangible, to the weight of the body, the seed rising to hold us. And we thank the earth for supporting us, for holding us. We offer deep appreciation to the earth. We offer deep appreciation to all the Buddhas, to the Bodhisattvas, to all the deities, to all of our guides and ancestors, to all the elements, to all of our teachers and guides and all of our lineages that we rely on. When we're ready, kind of coming out of this session, reawakening our bodies through some simple, slow movement. Also, maybe a few deep breaths. And we will it was a sweet practice. It was hard for me to come back. It was like, but really, I need to get this sinus medicine. Like, I can't go to bed without this tonight. So we will have the Shanti Davis prayer here. Recite this 3 times together. All right, and we begin. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the balanced creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the ends of space. Thank you, everyone, for your practice. And be sure to just to hydrate really well, to do some more movement practice too before you kind of settle down for the night. And just, whatever movement feels appropriate. Yeah, so thank you all so much. And I will see some of you tomorrow night for the beginning of the course. And I'll see the rest of you on Monday again for our practice. Okay. Thank you all so much. And just rely on Medicine Buddha, just when you're in doubt, just offer a prayer. All right. All right. Thank you, everyone.